And I would actually go further than David Corn. Trump is not running a normal campaign. It's not just a disinformation campaign, although it is that. He's been running a radicalization campaign. I've been saying that ever since he showed up at Waco, Texas, to start his campaign at a white supremacist pilgrimage site, site of cult violence. That was a sign. Then he's visiting gun shops to look at, guns with his name on them. And so it's not hard to see that he's been running this kind of, he's been conditioning Americans, and he's really been doing this since 2015 using his rallies, but particularly escalated now. He's conditioning Americans to see violence in a different light, which is what fascists do, which is what dictators do, as something that is sometimes necessary and even patriotic, which is why he calls the thugs who assaulted Capitol Police on January 6th as patriots. So all of this is is being escalated now because he needs to get people into a state of existential fear. And that's why he's talking about the enemy within, because the heartland has to be threatened, and he's dehumanizing them and sowing disgust and contempt for non-white people and immigrants. And all of this has to be ratcheted up so that he can get people into the state to perhaps follow him into violence if he loses.
Yeah, and, really disturbing things to think that today was the best Donald Trump you're going to see. Tomorrow it will be worse. The next day it will be worse. He's on a decline here, and he's in this sort of loop where he realizes he's losing, so he lashes out more in anger. And really, I think that they have almost given up on this race, and it's more about trying to change how we count votes to be able to control that with these threats of violence. And I think it's something that we really need to take seriously. I mean, can we really tell ourselves that they're not going to try to go into polling places in Arizona and disrupt them or burn one to the ground, and just so you can say they can't certify the election? And, one of the great advantages that Donald Trump has always had is the difficulty of imagining Donald Trump. You couldn't imagine him being the Republican nominee. You couldn't imagine him beating Clinton. You couldn't imagine him not refusing to leave office after he lost by 7 million votes. And I think that we have to embrace this and look at this is a guy who's calling for military tribunals. This is very serious stuff. And the great shame is not on Donald Trump, it's on the Republican Party for accepting this. And if the Republican Party stood up to Donald Trump and said, no, we're not going to have military tribunals, no, he wouldn't be able to get away with this kind of alacrity that he does now. But there is a great conspiracy of silence and cowardice in the Republican Party.
The GOP actually knows it can't win the popular vote. It's taking these extreme positions on reproduction rights and other things. And so they've become an autocratic entity that is dependent on lying, on corruption, and the threat and reality of violence. And then you have Trump, who is doing the classic thing, started by Mussolini onward, that you are the savior of the nation, but you're also the victim. And this victimhood complex is really important because it makes his most deluded/devoted followers feel protective of him, even though he's always telling them that he doesn't care about them, like not having buses for them, or in Iowa at the caucus, he said, even if you vote and you die, it'll be worth it. So this is like an abuser mentality, but he has to be the victim as well as the savior. And that's something that all strong men do successfully. But all of this is just straight out of authoritarianism, including the tragic outcome of that they despise their own people and they consider them, anybody who does not have total loyalty becomes an enemy of the people, an enemy of the state. And so Americans should know that it's not going to be just immigrants targeted. It's, liberals, leftists, political opponents, LGBTQ people. And that's how it always is with authoritarians. They may start by rhetorically emphasizing one group, but they always go after many groups.